So 4.4 is going to be the last section that we do in Chapter 4 before we test. And it's dealing with aquatic ecosystems. So aquatic ecosystems are going to be determined primarily by the depth, flow, temperature, and chemistry of the overlying water. Freshwater ecosystems can be divided into two main types, flowing water and standing water ecosystems. So let's take a look at those two types. Flowing water ecosystems include rivers, streams, creeks, and brooks, and standing water ecosystems include lakes and ponds. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward as to whether the water is moving or not, as to if it's a standing water or flowing water ecosystem. Plankton is a general term for tiny free-floating organisms that live in both freshwater and saltwater environments. Phytoplankton are single-celled algae supported by the nutrients in the water and form the base of many aquatic food webs. Zooplankton are planktonic animals that feed on the phytoplankton. So here's a picture right here, and we can see the zooplankton and phytoplankton together in the same area. A wetland ecosystem is an ecosystem in which water either covers the soil or is present at or near the surface of the soil for at least part of the year. Estuaries are wetlands formed when rivers meet the sea. They contain a mixture of fresh and salt water. Detritus is made up of tiny pieces of organic material that provide food for organisms at the base of estuary food webs. Salt marshes are the temperate zone estuaries dominated by salt-tolerant grasses about the low tide line and by seagrasses underwater. Mangrove swamps are coastal wetlands that are widespread across tropical regions, including southern Florida and Hawaii. In marine ecosystems, the photic zone is the well-lit upper area where photosynthesis is limited to in a marine ecosystem. The aphotic zone is below the photic zone and is permanently dark. In addition to the division between the photic and aphotic zone, marine biologists also divide the ocean based on depth and distance from the shore, the intertidal zone, coastal zone, and open ocean. So if we take a look right here, we can see a diagram. The top small area is the photic zone. Everything below that lightest blue is the aphotic zone. All right, and the intertidal zone is the part where the high tide will cover and the low tide will leave exposed. And the coastal ocean is that short part right before the drop off. Right, into the open ocean. So intertidal zone is for part of the day underwater and part of the day exposed to light. Zonation is the prominent horizontal banding of organisms that live in a particular habitat. The coastal ocean is the area extending from the low tide mark to the outer edge of the continental shelf, the relatively shallow border that surrounds the continents. Kelp forests are extremely productive ocean communities made up of kelp, which is a giant brown algae that can grow at extraordinary rates. Coral reefs are named for the coral animals whose hard calcium carbonate skeletons make up their primary structure. They are found in warm, shallow waters off coastal and tropical oceans. And finally, the open ocean is the area that begins at the edge of the continental shelf and extends outward. The benthic zone is the ocean floor, and benthos are organisms that live on or near the ocean floor.